Can you hear me? I just have a quick question for Lauren. I want to know if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Is it Tureen?
So close, Turen.
Turen. Okay, sorry.
Like Loren Turen.
Turen. Okay. So I would like to introduce our two guests for today's Mentoring Monday, Dr. Christina Robinson and Lauren Turen. So a bit about both. Dr. Christina Robinson is the Associate Vice President of the Graduate Studies Research and Faculty Department or Development and Professor in the Economics Department. She received her bachelor's degree from Bentley College and her PhD from North Carolina State University. Dr. Robinson joined the Economics Department at Central in August 2013, and her research and teaching interests focus primarily on health, labor, and welfare economics. Sorry. Lauren Turen, also known as the Queen of Admissions, is the Assistant Director of Undergraduate Advising at Central. She received her bachelor's in theater/English at WestCon and a master's in counseling, student development, and higher education here at Central. She joined admissions in 2011, but has been at Central since 2008 when she was a resident director in James Hall. And apart from reviewing applications and advising, she works closely with Central student athletes, making sure they meet all guidelines meet all guidelines. So today we're going to be talking about applying to graduate school. So I'm just going to give the floor to them.
All right. Well, first, thank you so much for the kind introductions, and it's so nice to be here with all of you today. I've asked Lauren to join me for some additional information and perspective on applying for graduate school. She is a proud alum of CCSU and has some important information to share with you. And so let me start by sharing a little bit maybe about my journey to graduate school. So I showed up like a lot of our undergraduate students on my first day of college, and I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. And it took me a little bit to find myself, and it was somewhere maybe in the middle of my junior year that I started thinking graduate school might be the right path for me. And so when thinking about graduate school, the first step that I really think students should do is to really think about what their goals are in life and to let that lead you rather than to let the programs that are available at a specific school, unless it's CCSU, guide you, right? Grad school is really a time to make sure that you're making the right choices for you. And, I studied economics, but it only took me a couple of programs to realize that not all economics programs looked the same, prepared you the same way, had the same specialties. And so it was a really personalized approach where I looked at the programs, I thought about what I wanted to do with my career, and then applied only to those schools that looked like they were the right match and had faculty that I was excited to be in the classroom with and learning from. Once I chose the program, I'm a planner, so I started an Excel spreadsheet that kind of highlighted the different schools that had the programs I was interested in, the faculty at those schools that I was most interested in working and learning from, and then made sure that I knew when the applications were due, because some schools will have different application deadlines for different programs, and you're going to want to make sure that you're paying particular importance to the deadline for your program of interest, as well as the application materials that were required for that specific program. Because some may only require the application, some may require an application and a resume or a written statement or any number of different pieces, again, depending on what your field of interest is. And so spending the time on the front end can help reduce the chances of heartache and lots of stress at the time of application. Before I turn it over to Lauren to see what her experience might be like, are there any questions? Because you guys can feel free to jump in and interrupt us at any time.
No, not right now. I think we're all set.
All right, Lauren, over to you.
Thank you. So hi guys, thanks for joining us today. When I was researching grad school, so obviously as you said, I majored in theater for undergrad, and counseling is a little different than theater. You know, especially working in higher education, I don't think most people come in and say, "Oh my God, I want to get a job in higher ed." It's just not something I think that some people think that you can get a job in. But so I really realized I was I really wanted to work in higher education because I was an RA, a resident assistant, in one of the residence halls at WestCon. And I said, oh my gosh, I can do this for my job. This is great. And so when I was working as an RD as I went to get my master's degree. So it was really important for me to get a degree in something that would help me, go with my profession. And so obviously the higher ed track here at Central was a great fit. And I, just as Christina said, I think one of the most important things to do is really pay attention to those deadlines. I can tell you counseling here has a completely different deadline than a lot of different other programs. The higher ed track that I did has, they like students to start part-time in the summer. So there's a lot of different things that can play into the different admissions that you should be thinking of. And I think that working in undergrad definitely made me appreciate it a little bit more, and actually really realize what's important about looking for graduate school. So, like Christina said, you want to make sure that you're researching the programs that you're interested in. And I think it's pretty similar to undergrad, is that, you want to make sure that the campus is what you like, the education that you're going to get is what you want. And let's be honest, the price is right? Because it's a very big investment. Graduate school on top of sometimes student loans from undergrad, it gets to be a lot. So making sure that you guys are paying attention to that is really important. And also, so some places now are doing, and especially because of COVID, do a lot of online stuff now. But sometimes they'll say their stuff is online, but then there's sometimes you have to go in like once a month to do a little hybrid thing during the weekend. So that's something to be cognizant as well. I know Northeastern has a great, educational leadership doctorate that's all online, except for they do have sometimes you have to go in there, in person and do like a weekend there. And so knowing that ahead of time and knowing that may be something to plan into your, life, into your schedule is really important, because sometimes you just can't, at the drop of a hat say, okay, I'm going to go here, for the weekend. I just realized I have to be there and do that. I have to go to Boston for a weekend. So it's something just to keep in mind as well. Have you guys started researching, looking at any graduate schools? No? Okay. What year are you guys in right now?
We're all different years. I'm a junior.
Yeah, I'm like a junior, senior.
Okay.
And us, yeah, we're frustrated.
Okay, awesome. So you guys, so it's great that you're not, it's great that you guys are here and trying to learn about the ways to apply. I think one of the best things to do as well is to stop by PJ's office, which used to be your old next door, so the career office in Willard D. Loretto, and kind of making sure that the resumes are looking good, looking fabulous, that you have all the format right, and that you're really hitting on everything that you guys have done, because a lot of programs are going to ask for you to submit your resume, and that's something that students don't even think about. So resume is something that generally is asked for admission into places. And that's something that you can begin working on right now, right? So you guys can start drafting up what you're involved in, everything like that, to making sure that I know you guys have already done some mentoring with interview skills, which is really great. A lot of different programs ask you to interview. So whether it is something that is in person or online, like I know for me, for my counseling, it was a group interview. So we were really more of like, it wasn't having a conversation, but there are ones that are one-on-one. So that's something just to keep in mind and maybe talk about. And again, there are all these resources here at Central that can help to prepare you for those as well. You know, we definitely have different sorts of workshops and activities. I think even the your club alone does so many different workshops for you guys and making sure that you guys are getting the skills that you need, which is phenomenal. But definitely there's a lot of different other places on campus as well that are offering you those, so definitely take advantage of that. You know, the opportunity to interview, sometimes it's great to just to even have that experience, because it is something that it changes. It can change on just your, you know, how you're feeling that day, how you interview. But I always say to people, you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So sometimes you can go to that interview and they, say, hey, we're gonna accept you into the university, and you can say, I wasn't really, not really feeling it, and that's okay, right? But you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So that's something to keep in mind when you guys are searching. And so the other thing, like I said just before, is that you can always, go ahead and get a master's in something that you did not major in. So I think that's something, people kind of have that block against saying, nope, I can't get my master's in that, but you absolutely can. I started in the data science program here, and again, a theater is nothing like data science. And I did have to do some prereqs. I had to take some extra classes in order to be accepted into the program, but I did. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that you may have some prereqs that you need to get done. And certainly if you guys already know what sort of fields you want to go into for, your degree, it'd be great to take those prereqs if you can. But certainly not something that you need to do right now if you're not comfortable, if you don't know. But it's always an option to switch your field of study. Absolutely. So it's not sort of one and done. You can always go ahead and switch that, depending on where your passion kind of goes as you get older.
Yeah, and a lot of the graduate schools will, even if they don't have an interview process, will welcome you to campus and allow you to spend a day with one of their current graduate students so that you can have some of the conversations that are more difficult to have over the computer or through email, and really help to make that personal connection. And you can often sit in on a class, maybe have lunch with a current student or a faculty member, and really get to shop the program. So don't be afraid to ask for those opportunities, because a lot of times they may not be promoted as available, but the programs are delighted when students show the interest and self-motivation to ask for them. So.
And do you guys know, do you guys know the websites to go to search for grad schools at all?
I kind of do.
Okay, so what are you using?
Well, because I'm a little older, I guess. I'm a senior. I'm not really thinking of going to grad school, but I have done a bit of research. So what I usually do is knowing what I want to go to grad school for, first I just go on Google, and then I look up top 10. That's what I just do, like top 10, just to get an idea of what it is. And then I go, okay, what's the actual region I want to go to? I kind of just narrow it down. And usually most undergrad schools have a graduate program. So I go on their website, I just look up the school's name, and I look up my program, and it says it on their website. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so I always say Google's everyone's best friend. If you know what you're looking for, it's pretty easy to find some good stuff. usnews.com has a great search graduate school site, and you're able to go in there from program rankings. You're talking about top 10. You can go in there for the school name if you know the school name. If you want to know within a location. So if you're committed to staying in Connecticut, you can put that down, and then it will tell you the schools and what the programs that are offered there are. So it's definitely, just like you said, definitely beneficial to check that out and to utilize your resources. And also your professors right now are phenomenal resources. So a lot of them can tell you about programs, and it doesn't even need to be where they went. So, I tell people, if you want to know about WestCon's, let's say theater program, I can tell you a lot about that. That'd be great. But I can also tell you about a lot of different other programs that I know of, and I know colleagues who have done those, and I know other people who I've met and I've talked to about their experiences at their programs. So don't, forego what people may be able to tell you about experiences. And you definitely have a great network right here at Central to be able to speak about, maybe Central doesn't offer the degree that you want, and that's okay. But we maybe can talk to you about a degree that you want at another university that we know is a great program, and we know that we really do feel it would be a great fit for you. So definitely utilize those resources.
I have a question. How accurate do you think the rankings from U.S. News is? A student looking at those rankings, should they take those seriously, kind of? Because I know they change from every year, so I'm just thinking, because I actually went on that recently and I looked at a bunch of stuff from Eastern, and they just got updated a bunch of rankings compared to Central. Just something funny, I thought.
Sure. So I typically for rankings like that, I personally don't care about rankings. I am accreditation for me is really everything. So you're regionally accredited, that's going to be, and if you're accredited within your specific organization and field, to me, that weighs more for me than a ranking does anyway, because the accreditation it's what's going to matter. And I know that just based off of me working in admissions. So I know that we accept stuff only from regionally accredited institutions. And that's pretty much how it is across the board. So that's really important to look for, is those, are those specific accreditations? And again, you can go right to Google and figure that out. But some sites are, for the program rankings, you can buy your rank, or there's different ways to kind of get your rank up there. So I do tell people it really is about the right fit for you at the university, and then really looking for that accreditation within that specific program. And I think Christina might agree with me on that one.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be at grad school for a little bit, so it's important to make sure that you're someplace you feel comfortable, someplace you're happy to be. And I'd rather be living in an area that I'm comfortable in, that I like to be located in, that I feel safe in, that has the kind of lifestyle that I want to live. Even if the program has a lower official ranking, then I would rather be at a really great ranked school where I'm absolutely miserable, because, if I'm miserable, my chances of succeeding may not be as high as they would be if I was otherwise happy with the experience.
Okay, thank you.
Muted, by the way.
I have a question too. So for me, I'm in the teacher ed program for secondary history. So what's the process of application look like? Should I do that when I'm student teaching, or when should I be applying to grad school?
Lauren, I think we could probably reach out to Donna on this one. Neither one of us are from the education areas, and I don't want to steer you wrong. So let us phone a friend.
Okay.
And we'll get some information back for you.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I believe when you're doing your 6th year and whatnot, but like Christina said, we want to make sure that we're getting you the correct information. And if I can't get you the answer by the end of this, definitely we can take your information and get you the answer from someone from the School of Education and Professional Studies who knows a little bit more about that and can answer that for you. A lot of times places, the only thing I know there is, you have, I believe it's 6 years in order to complete your master's degree from when you first get your job in teaching though. So that's something to keep in mind. They do, there's some restrictions toward that. So that's just something to keep in mind, but we'll reach out, and if, like I said, if we don't get the answer by the end of this, then certainly we'll get your information and we can follow up with you regarding that.
Okay, thank you.
So I have another question. It's kind of about the GRE. So I know that if you want to go to like a graduate program, you have to take the GRE. But then I also know for like business schools or stuff like I forgot what's called for that for the business school, but I know for law schools like LSAT, and then for medicine is MCAT. What's the difference between all of that?
You know, they're all standardized tests. Some of the business schools do the GMAT. It's very much like the difference between the SAT and the ACT, and some are a little bit more specialized than others. But just like a lot of schools at the undergraduate level have gone SAT optional, a lot of graduate programs are starting to phase out some of the standardized testing. So I would, again, before you invest the time in studying and the money and signing up for the exams, I might encourage you to research if they are needed for the program that you're considering.
Do you recommend, even if it's optional, to submit GRE scores?
It really depends on the school, and I know that's maybe not the answer you're hoping for. But if a school hasn't asked for it, they may well not look at those scores even if you submit them. But that's not to say that that's what every school would do with them. I do think if you were to contact the graduate admissions office at those schools, that they would probably very transparently tell you if they would be considered.
Okay.
Now, if you're thinking about applying to 5, 6, 7 schools, which might be more than you need to apply to, then you might, if some of them are requiring them, it might be worth just taking so that you do have a score to send, so that if you change your mind at the last minute and want to apply to a school that requires them, you don't find yourself wishing that you had sat for the exam.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
That kind of made me think of a question. So you talked about like applying to like a certain number of schools. So I remember when we were in high school and they talked about like regular college applications for undergrad. They said like you should have your reach school, like X amount of schools that you'd want to go to, and like a safety school. How many schools do you recommend applying to for grad school?
So I typically recommend the same approach. I typically tell students you should try to do a really good job with about 5 applications, maybe one that's a real reach, 2 or 3 that you think you have a good chance of getting into, and then another 2 or 3 that you think shouldn't be a problem. Just because the graduate school application process is really different every year, where a lot of the programs will sit with all of their applications and look to build the class. So it's going to depend a little bit on just what other applications happen to be in a specific school's pile that year. And so I tend to think that you want to really stack the deck in favor of those schools that you think you have a good chance to get into and that you reasonably expect to get into, because there are always some unexpected surprises in the process, and it's important to not take it personally, because it may have very, very little to do with you or the portfolio that you've put forward. Lauren, is there anything else you want to add there?
Yeah, and it's okay to ask acceptance rate as well. So most federally funded schools are going to tell you what their acceptance rate is. So you can see what your chances, could be. If they have a high acceptance rate and you know that you meet those requirements and you're doing great, chances of you getting into that school are really, really fabulous, right? So I think, doing that research is only going to help you succeed in that. And I also think, just as, undergrad admissions has kind of steered toward is really, how interested are you in that school? So they track so many different things, you know? We track, if we send you an email, are you opening it? If we send you an email, are you clicking on stuff? Did you come to an event that you signed up for? How many events did you come to before you applied to the institution, after you applied, all that stuff. So there are schools that look at that. There are schools that are going to look at how interested are you? Because the more you're interested, the more engaged you're going to be, the better student you're going to be. You know, it looks better when you graduate, do well, right? So all of that can kind of play into that. So definitely, you know, if you're interested in a place, you kind of want to make it known that you're interested. You want to show up to the events that they're having, any things that they're sending you, check it out. Because like I said, more and more stuff is being tracked as far as that, to look at how interested you are in that institution. And sometimes that could be, you know, the deciding factor is, listen, we have two people who are the exact same profile, and one's showing a lot of interest and one just applied, that's all they did. Well, wouldn't you rather give admission to someone who showed a lot of interest than someone who just applied to the university if they're the exact same profile? I would. I'd want someone who really wants to come here. I'd want to make their day. So just think of that as well.
And you mentioned acceptance rates. Do you know what Central's acceptance rate is for graduate school?
It really depends on the specific programs. But if there's a program you're interested in, if you wanted to let us know, we could look it up and get back to you.
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm doing the teacher ed program, so I haven't really looked into graduate school, but it would be like related to history teaching for secondary education.
Yeah, so you know what we should do? We should get him set up with Donna, get a phone call organized so that she can answer all of his questions. If you could do me a favor, if you could get us your contact information, we'll have the Assistant Dean of the School of Education and Professional Studies set up a time to get in touch with you, and she can answer all of your questions.
Okay. Do you want me to send you guys like an email with my contact information, or do you want me to put it in the chat?
That would be great. Either one, whatever's better for you.
Okay.
Do any of you guys have questions?
So I just put my email in the chat.
Great. And what's your first name?
Jacob.
Okay. Excellent. So I will send Donna your info, and so that way she can reach out and get a time set with you guys so you can chat. But when the best time is. Sorry, we don't you know a lot of different stuff about a lot of different areas, but unfortunately we don't know everything specific about the particular program. So we do like to defer to people who know the exact answer that you want, then make one up. So we definitely like making sure we get you the correct answer.
Thank you.
I have one last question. So, is there any impact during the admissions process of applying a couple years removed from when you graduate undergrad? You don't think there's any like negative coming from that? Okay.
I think more and more people are taking gap years.
Yeah.
You know, I think in this economy, you know, we have people who need to work. You have people who sometimes get a job right out of college that is a great opportunity and they can't start grad school right away. I think that, you know, it's something that we see undergrad as well. So I don't think you're negatively impacted by that at all. You know, I really think that it's something that is being seen more and more. And you also see, you know, like I said before, a lot of change in directions of where people want to go. And that's okay. And that's really what, you know, if you have an application, when you're doing your application, if there's an essay for that, that's a great time to explain anything like that. If you have an interview, sometimes they may ask you, and just being candid and honest is a really great way to answer that question, right? So there usually are some sort of opportunities for you to, but I think it's stuff that we see all the time. Is that there are years, you know, that pass before people decide to attend.
Thank you.
So any other questions?
So I think that might be it for all of our questions, but thank you so much for coming to speak with us and all of the advice.
All right, well, thank you so much for having us, and we'll make sure Donna gets in touch with you. She's actually messaging me now, so we'll be able to get her info, get your info to her, and she'll be in touch, and we look forward to seeing you in the School of Graduate Studies soon.
Got it, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ever want to come say hi? We're a hop, skip, and a jump away, so feel free to visit anytime.
Got it.
All right.